Welcome to our Learn How to Become a Koalafied Detective webinar. Over the next hour, you will hear from our guest speakers about all things spotting koalas. When individuals like you share their koala sightings, it provides valuable data about koala habitats. This information plays a crucial role in safeguarding these koala habitats and can even help save the life of a koala. When more people like you are able to identify the indicators of a sick or injured koala and are out looking for them, it enables swift action from koala carers. These koalas can then be nursed back to health and released into their environments. Tonight, our guest speakers are going to give you the information you need so you can become a Koalafied detective. First up, you're going to hear from Dr. Harriet Preece. Harriet is a Senior Program Officer currently working with the Koala Research and Monitoring team. She's a spatial ecologist with experience in wildlife ecology, threatened species monitoring, habitat modelling, and the links between science and policy. Harriet has been a ranger with national parks across Australia and began monitoring koala populations to support the first state planning policy back in 1995. In 2015, she was involved in analysing more than 20 years of data to quantify declines in koala populations. She is helping to develop an expanded koala monitoring program to track progress of the koala conservation strategy and determine trends in koala numbers across the whole of southeast Queensland. Harriet is going to be sharing a snapshot of her team's koala monitoring work in southeast Queensland. Next, you will hear from Joel and Lolita. They are here to share their top tips for spotting koalas. They have called the Redlands their home since December 2021. As nature lovers, they enjoy being out in the bush, connecting with their environment and doing their bit for Mother Earth and all the beings that live here. Looking for wildlife wherever they go comes naturally to them, so they were delighted to discover that there were koalas in their neighbourhood. Since 2022, they have submitted close to 30 sightings on the Redlands Coast Koala Watch app, with a view of helping researchers with important data, as well as monitoring the health of this now endangered species. Lastly, you will hear from Jamie Blouse, who works with RSPCA Queensland Wildlife Hospital. Jamie has worked with native wildlife for over 20 years. As a veterinary nurse with extra qualifications in emergency and critical care, she is passionate about the emergency clinical care of injured wildlife, rehabilitation of the treated wildlife so they can thrive once released back into the wild. She has developed particular expertise in the fauna of southeast Queensland. In her role, she is responsible for liaising with the Department of Environment and Science, local wildlife rescue and rehabilitation groups, and veterinarians across Brisbane that send injured wildlife to the RSPCA Wildlife Hospital. Tonight, we are lucky enough to have her share with us how to recognise health issues in koalas. We will also have time for Q&A, and so if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat. First up, we are going to hear from Dr. Harriet Preece about her Southeast Queensland Koala Monitoring Program.
Why we... Indeed, thank you very much. Why we're doing this. So we're seeing koala numbers declining. So this is some of the work that we did with the University of Queensland back in 2015 and showing how Koala Coast population has declined by 80% over a period of time up until 2015, and 54% has been estimated in Pine Rivers. We didn't have enough data back then to do Southeast Queensland, so that's the work we're currently doing to have a look at the trends in the rest of the study area, the rest of Southeast Queensland. So the government response to those declines was to launch the Koala Conservation Strategy, and you're welcome to have a look online on our website if you want more details about that. There's also an implementation plan and annual reports there. So the government has set some targets to preserve the habitat, stabilise the populations, restore habitat, and to reduce the threats. And there's a number of action areas that is in that plan. So I just thought I'd touch on some of those. So habitat protection, so trying to secure habitat and introduce the concept of these koala priority areas. Restore habitat, and as you can see, it's always marvellous to see more trees planted under the partnerships program and the land restoration fund there. I've also got some threat management work happening. We've got the Koala Base database, and of course the big one, the Koala Sightings app, so Q Wildlife, which I think others will be speaking about. Of course, the terrific work by Griffith Uni, the Koala Collab seminar series, and lots of other community groups doing lots of really great work. Other partnerships with, we've got a Koala Advisory Council, and the our involvement now with the National Monitoring Program, all working towards a better outcome for koalas. And the big area that we're involved in is mapping and monitoring, and that's some of our team there helping do the survey work. And of course, we've got money towards grants that come up from time to time. I thought I'd just give you the background in this monitoring program. So this is basically a massive survey program across Southeast Queensland, and we're looking at trying to detect trends in that koala population. And I put a little graph here showing that what we're trying to do is stop the business as usual decline in koala populations with the aim of stabilising them or preferably recovering those populations over time. And to do that, what we've done is got a fair bit of help from the University of Queensland to optimise our surveys. And so we've got a good plan to stratify our survey sites. We're doing it right across 12 local governments in Southeast Queensland, different habitat types, different zoning. So in the urban or non-urban areas, we are sampling according to the amount of habitat that's left in an area, trying to survey every 2 years. And survey 30% of a site. And we're using an unusual, well, it's not that unusual, but we're using line transect or distance sampling. So we're not using strip transects or pellet counts or drones or dogs. We're using very systematic surveys so we can get some really good scientific data as a base for doing that. And I just thought I'd touch on what line transect sampling is. So it's a very sophisticated method where we walk along a transect and then we actually measure the distance to the koalas that we detect. And from that, we can estimate the numbers that we've missed, which is pretty exciting, I think, if you like mathematics. And the other reason we like distance sampling is, well, it gives us that ability to calculate a detection probability or the proportion of koalas that we miss when we're doing our surveys, which is pretty important. There's a lot of maths involved, which is great fun. And of course, it's also much quicker and takes fewer people, so it's cost effective for doing koalas. And there's a little picture of, you know, the way we run transects through the bush. So it's pretty hard work because the survey teams really can't deviate from that line and have to keep going regardless of the terrain. So they're working very hard. So the results so far, so we've completed our baseline surveys, and these red circles represent some of the survey sites that we've done. Over the grey represents the habitat that's remaining in Southeast Queensland. We can't survey in areas where there's very few trees using this method. We rely on you people, on the citizen scientists out there to do that for us. So bring in the counts from those areas that we can't get to. So we've surveyed 230 sites. We've sampled different types of habitat, many different tenures. So we've been on National Park, of course, and we've got to thank Council, SEQ Water Defence, and of course our private landholders. And I'll talk a little bit more about them because we are always interested in getting more private land, especially big blocks of land that we can survey. So we've started our resurveying this year. So it'll take us 2 years to resurvey these sites and get around. Once we've surveyed them twice, we can look at a change estimate. So we're analysing the data at the moment. We're doing a very sophisticated modelling with the University of Queensland. And then hopefully we'll start looking at how the numbers are over time. And just to give you some idea of the effort involved, the transect kilometres that the team have surveyed up until December last year was 771 kilometres, and that's basically equivalent to the distance between Brisbane and the Sydney Opera House. So next time you drive down the M1 and you see that sign that says Sydney, 900 kilometres away, you'll know that that's equivalent to the distance that this team has surveyed over in the last 2 years, which is just a stupendous effort. So they've surveyed a lot of area. They've seen quite a few koalas, and they're bang on target to hopefully see some more. We better not skip through some photos of the team. So they get to see some pretty nice places, get to see some pretty amazing things. Powerful owl there. And so it's not always beer and skittles, but they do a really good job. So just wanted to bring you back to, if you want to do more to help, please feel free to use the Q Wildlife app. You can report koalas that way. And if you have a property that you want to survey, allow us to survey, particularly if it's a big property. So we're talking somewhere, 30 hectares or more, or 100 hectares of bushland, we'd be interested to talk to you about that. So I think that's it. And thanks for your time.
That is absolutely wonderful, Harriet. Thank you so much for taking up a presentation this evening at 6 p.m. We really appreciate it. It's really great to see the work that your actual team does. So at the moment remember everybody that you're very welcome to put a question into the chat channel. And at the moment there are no questions there for you, Harriet, but we will continue to take the questions up as the session goes on. So Kirsty has actually said that she missed the email address to contact you. Would it be possible for you to actually put that into the chat channel?
Sure. Yep. I'll copy and paste that. Otherwise, contact us afterwards. We can definitely.
We'll definitely get that to you, Kirsty. Yep. We'll make sure we've got it. So thank you so much for your interest. That is absolutely wonderful. So our next speaker, as I said, I introduced everyone pretty much at the start. So I'm just going to hand over now to Lolita to talk about their experience.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Lolita, and I have my husband Joel here with me. I don't know if he's waving out at the moment. So we live in the Redlands. We've been here for less than 2 years, and very excited to know that we live in a koala safe neighborhood, and we jumped right into submit our sightings on the Koala Watch program that the Redlands Council has, and we do it via the BioCollect app. And so I'll just take you. Yeah. So today we're here to share with you our top tips to spot koalas. And we are no experts, we're regular people like you, but we just wanted to tell you that anyone and everyone can do it. It's really easy, and these tips are going to help you. And there's a much larger purpose, at hand, like Harriet told us, with conservation, and there's so much that we can do to help. So I'm going to take you to the first half of the presentation and then hand over to Joel. So all these pictures of koalas that you see here are photos that we have taken of koalas in the Redlands around where we live. So lots of cute ones. Okay. So our top tip number 1, of course, is look up. You have to look up because most often you'll see them up in the tree. And what's important is every tree, not just eucalyptus.
Yep.
So you don't really want to only be focusing on eucalyptus trees. Of course, that's where you'll find them most of the time because that's what they like to eat. But very often they use other trees when, they're changing from one tree to the other and they need a break, and they just, they could go up any random tree that's not a eucalyptus, or sometimes in extreme weather conditions, maybe it's raining, maybe it's too hot or it's too cold, then they would probably, go up another tree that has denser foliage. And this particular koala that we saw on Strady, in fact, was sitting in a tree that was not a eucalyptus as well. So that's one of the things, is just look up every tree. Tip number 2 is investigate any lump that you see in the Y or a fork of a tree. I know it might, just don't be scared of, I'm sure it's it's something else, but just look it up because it could be a termite nest, but it could also turn out to be the cute bum of a koala. So especially when, they're sleeping, they just look like a round burl of a tree, or they just look like a termite nest. You can't really tell. But if you have a pair of binoculars, that's really handy. You can zoom in, you can, check them out, but definitely don't ignore any lump that you see in the tree. And if you also see a young koala, like, a joey who's probably 9 or 10 months old, who's just begun to, come out of his mom's pouch and he's exploring around, look around the joey as well, because mom might be sitting nearby watching, because that has happened a few times with us. And so we've got 2 sightings, not just the joey, but also mom. And then let's see, what's tip number 3 is to listen or look for falling leaves, because sometimes you're walking and then, you just look up and you see there's like a bunch of leaves or twigs that are falling down, fruits or flowers, and that could indicate that there's a koala up in the tree and he's feeding. So definitely watch out or pay attention for any kind of activity, that's happening up in the tree and things that are falling on the path in front of you. Tip number 4, look for claw marks on the tree bark. I'm sure most of you have seen koalas have big claws, sharp claws, and when they climb up, they make these, marks on the bark of the tree. So if you see those, definitely look up that tree, because that could be an indication that there's a koala there, or perhaps it was there and has moved on. So some of these claw marks can also be made by possums or goannas, but definitely worth checking out if, the tree, there could be a koala there. Top tip number 5, look for koala poo or scat on the ground. It's the size and shape of an olive, and it's dark green in color. So koalas, they poo a lot throughout the day. There's probably over, 300 pellets is what I'm told. And we see a lot of it when we're walking, and for sure, there's a koala up there because he's been pooing all day. And the poo smells strongly of eucalyptus, so it's a really nice smell, not too bad. And sometimes it can get confused with possum poo because, but possum poo is kind of smaller and darker, but koala poo is definitely greener when it's fresh and, the shape and size of an olive. Top tip number 6 is listen for their bellows during mating season. I'm sure a lot of you might have also heard it. So the males get really loud and they're very grunty. So here's a little clip from the Taronga Zoo that tells you, okay, I can't play the video, Tori. Can you, how do I click on that? I can't hear it. Can everyone hear?
The noise isn't coming through, but we can put that link in when we email out tomorrow so that people can hear it.
Okay. Yeah. No worries. So it's a very deep, deep grunt or deep bellow from the male koala. So you can, hear him, several hundred meters away probably. So if you hear that, obviously head to that direction, where it's coming from. And that's a male koala that's, trying to attract a female. So that's something to look out for. And in fact, breeding season has just started. So this is a good time, August to February, that you will probably hear the koalas around. And then another tip is to smell them. So koalas also smell like the eucalyptus they eat. So they have a strong eucalyptus smell. If your sense of smell is really strong and, you're walking around and you smell eucalyptus like really strongly, maybe there's a koala around, or and males also leave a very pungent, like a musky scent on the trees during breeding season. You see he has a little scent gland on his chest that he rubs on the tree to attract females. So that is also something that you you could probably watch out for. So basically keep all your eyes, your ears, your nose open, because you just never know. All of this is going to help you to detect koalas. And then the next thing is koalas are also they're obviously active at night. They're nocturnal animals, and most of us are probably not active at night. We are sleeping, so it's, you know, we're not always out looking at them in the night. But they also are very visible, you know, active at dawn and dusk, which makes these really good times for spotting. And we've had the most success between like 4:30 and 7 when we, you know, go out for our daily walk. We see them pretty active. They're eating, they're feeding, they're moving about in the trees. So that's a very good good time to spot them as well. But it doesn't mean that you can't go at any time of the day. You can. And even if they're sleeping, if you just follow the other tips, you are definitely going to see a koala. So, and the more you go out, the higher your chances of seeing them. And then top tip number 9 is observe other animals' behavior, which could be indicating a koala is nearby. So I'll just explain a bit of this. This is not very, it may or may not help, but what for me, from personal experience, I remember watching this brush-tailed possum, and he seemed very curious. He was looking at something in the tree, and he kept looking, and I was like, what is he looking at? And I followed his gaze, and I saw that he was looking at a koala. So, you know, I just happened to notice that. So there's a possibility that other animals in the tree are just curious about another animal in the tree. So just observe and see what other animals are doing. Carpet pythons, wedge-tailed eagles, you know, powerful owls are predators of koalas as well, and smaller, you know, koala joeys. So in case you see any of these predators around, and if they seem like they're about to hunt, or they seem, you know, curious about something in the tree, there's a possibility there might be a koala around. So just watch what these animals are doing as well. And then there was something in the news some years ago about a crow attacking a koala because it came too close to his nest. It probably doesn't happen too often, but, you know, koalas unintentionally, they're walking up, maybe they're too close to a bird's nest, and the birds get restless or they're a bit disturbed. So you could probably look at that. And if you see that happening, there's a possibility there might be a koala around. So just pay attention to your surroundings and to other animals' behaviors, and you definitely see one. So I'm now going to hand over to Joel to take you to the rest of the tips.
Thanks, Lolly. And I think top tip number 10 is, you know, koalas are all over the place. They're very much in Southeast Queensland, so very much around you. But if you do require some help in terms of finding where exactly they have been reported in the past, for you to kind of go and rediscover or re-report those, definitely look up the Q Wildlife or the BioCollect app. We use the BioCollect app a lot, so it's a good repository of, you know, where the koalas potentially are, but, you know, both the apps provide you with that information. But, you know, you need not kind of have to go through these maps. You can just walk through the parks, or, you know, on your own property, if you know there are koalas there, and just look up to know if there were, you know, if you've seen koalas before, go back and look for them again. There may be some well-known koala ambassadors, you know, there may be koalas around them, or report the ones that are known. For example, we walk around our neighborhood and we know where the koalas are. So, you know, we will definitely be going out to kind of see, you know, if we see those friendly faces again. Top tip number 11. So, you know, koala spotting is not rocket science, and definitely it's not something which, you know, you have to kind of have a lot of specialization in. Lolly and myself are, you know, just, you know, citizen scientists like y'all. We go around for our walks and we spot koalas. It's just a beautiful thing to have in our neighborhood. So on this thing, you definitely go out being aware that there are koalas around you, so look for them. But you know, integrate this activity as part of your daily walk. So, you know, as Lolita mentioned earlier, we go out in the evenings, and that's when we spot the most koalas. In fact, I took my parents out, and, you know, we took them, and they were interested. We have taken our kids, you know, our friends' kids and neighbors, and everyone's been really excited about koala spotting. So make it a family activity, make it a friend's activity, make it a neighborhood activity, and go out and spot those koalas. They're really out there, and it's fun to kind of watch and spot with them. So do it when you are out there as well. Those are the top tips. I think we have had great success in spotting and looking for koalas. there are a few things that you should do, and I think the other speakers will get more into this. But when you do see a koala which is is sick, there'll be signs which we'll talk about later in terms of how to kind of report that. But there are the numbers and things that you can do when you're reporting. Every report counts, whether it's healthy or whether it's sick. So definitely report on whatever you're seeing. It will help the numbers go up. And this last bit of information, we are all out there looking for koalas, but be careful in terms of how you are behaving in front of the koala. So there's a few ethical things that you should keep in mind. Stay far, do not approach the koala. So if the koala is resting or sleeping in a tree close by, do not try to wake the koala up to see if it has a ear tag or a belt or whatever. Let the koala be. You can go around, rotate around the tree to see if the koala has the tags you're looking for, or when the information you need to report it. Do not disturb the koala. If it's eating, let it be, let it eat. Maintain a safe distance from it, and do not try to approach the koala. If it's trying to get down from the tree, again, do not be in its way, do not stand near the tree, because we have seen instances where people have grouped around wanting the best selfie or the photograph, and the koala just goes back up the tree, and you're restricting. So when you see some behavioral change in the koala on account of your presence, you know that you're too close and it's time to kind of roll back and go back. Lastly, do not trespass private property. So yes, in your passion to kind of view the koala from the best angle, don't try to get onto into private land or things like that, which will cause problems for you. You can always take permission. People are always welcoming when they know there are koalas on your property. So ask for permission before you enter or get onto private property. That's all I had. We'll be happy to kind of share any other experience if you have through questions. But yeah, that's all for now. Thanks for listening.
Oh, Lolly and Joel, that was amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your stories. And it's just great to hear and learn from people like yourselves who've been happily getting out there already and have had so much success actually finding your local counterpart koalas. It's really, really cool. There's a couple of questions in the chat channel. Just one to go back for Harriet. A question's been raised here about, is it appropriate to add koalas that have been released into a site as distinct from collecting data on the koalas that are already there? Is that beneficial for people to actually report? And Alicia's asking, do the Department of Environment and Science and councils have a preferred way of reporting? Now, this is one that I can actually answer direct, because the answer is that you can actually report in any way that you're actually comfortable with. Some of our councils do actually ask people to report via paper, and others are happily, working from certain apps for their own purposes as well. And if you go to the Wildlife Watcher website, which we'll put into the chat channel for you, it has information on both. So if you're not familiar and you need to learn how to use it, you can actually do it. So Harriet has put an answer out there and has said, yes, please do actually collect data on the koalas that are being released as well. It's a very useful thing to actually do. So thanks for jumping into the chat channel there and answering the questions. We really appreciate it. So if there's questions for Lolly and Joel, please do put them in as well, and we will happily answer these afterwards. But for now, we will move across and ask Jamie to talk about how to spot whether the koala is well. So over to you, Jamie.
Thank you. And firstly, thank you all for joining. This is something that is very close to my heart, and certainly public awareness is right up there. And if the more people that get involved in our koala space, obviously, the better off our koalas will be. So thank you all. I'm going to be chatting today around signs of a sick koala. So I will just do a little bit about us here though. So for those who haven't joined in any of these chats kind of before, a little bit about us. So I work for the RSPCA Queensland. I actually am a veterinary nurse. I am currently the business development manager for wildlife, but probably more importantly, I have been a veterinary nurse for just over 20 years and working across many different fields, and have been privileged for the last 16 years to be working with koalas in particular. But a little bit about what we do. We have 2 wildlife facilities with RSPCA Queensland. one at Wacol, our wildlife hospital, and the Yamundi Rehabilitation Centre up on the Sunshine Coast. So during 2022, we saw just over 24,000 wildlife patients admitted to our Wacol facility, and an additional 3,500 to our Yamundi facility up there on the Sunshine Coast. So that's nearly 27,000 wildlife patients alone, just out of one kind of organisation wildlife facility. So lots of patients, not just our koalas, but lots coming through our doors. So we do have a rescue service as well, for not only koalas, but definitely for all those creatures out there, domestic and native, which usually consists of about 6 vehicles, 7 to 10 p.m. based out of our Wacol facility. Also the 1300 animal number. So you guys will see this sign probably around your neighbourhood on some of the major roads, all across Queensland, and that actually number is manned by us. So that number receives hundreds of wildlife calls every single day. But it's really important to note that our little Wacol call centre, who takes those calls, is not only dealing with wildlife calls, they're dealing with all, again, all those domestic wildlife calls, surrenders, adoptions, cruelty concerns, but certainly lots of wildlife come through there. But just on those numbers, just for our koalas, we saw just over 500 koalas last year admitted to our hospital. So they are a very important, patient, of course. They take a lot of resources because they are so specialised. And unfortunately, by the time a lot of our patients do come through, they have been sick for quite some time, especially our diseased patients. So if we can get the public on board with spotting these sick koalas out there, then hopefully they'll come into facilities like ours sooner and start receiving that medical treatment that they need. So I get asked all the time, and before I go into too much into what does a sick and a healthy koala look like, but all the time we get asked, in particular, how can you tell the difference between a male and a female koala? So I'm just going to jump over and we'll have a quick look. So I know the guys have already touched on a few of these points, but males generally larger in size than our females. The males have a beautiful big scent gland, especially if they're a big breeding dominant male. As you can see here in the picture, they'll have this beautiful big active scent gland. Yes, it has got a very musky smell, and you may be able to smell that from time to time, especially in that breeding season if the males have been moving around and marking. Testicles. I know that's probably a pretty simple one, but you'll be surprised how many calls we get going, I think it's got a pinky or and no, that would be probably signs of a male koala there. They are forward, they do have a forward facing scrotum, so they will be sticking out. Our males, if they have been into a care facility already, they will have a left ear tag. Now that ear tag may be different colours, depending on what organisation they've kind of passed through, but the rule is that the males get ear tagged on the left. Also, those big boys, you can see that, they are quite buffy, so they tend to have this big kind of Roman nose in most cases as well. So our females, generally smaller in size, but can be really tricky to tell sometimes, especially if they're juvenile koalas, whether they are male and female, because they can be mistaken as kind of the younger boys as girls. No scent glands, so a nice white chest on our girls. Have a pouch. If they do have a joey, you may see a joey bulge in there, and if the joey is a bit older, you may see it at that back rider stage. And our girls, the rule of thumb, they are ear tagged in the right, because girls are always right. So easy way to remember your males and females. But they are the general signs, but certainly overall, if there are any concerns, sick or injured, at the end of the day, male or female, it doesn't matter. but certainly some things to look out for. So healthy koalas. So it's so nice. I'm actually watching those other slides before, and automatically I'm scanning through all those beautiful pictures that the guys have been spotting out there in the Redlands, and straight away I'm scanning for healthy looking or sick looking koalas, and it's nice to see they are all looking pretty top notch out there at the Redlands. So good job, guys. But a healthy koala should have a thick grey coat and a clean white bottom. That bottom again is something we want to see nice and clean, and obviously if you're looking up, they are quite speckly, so they can be a little bit tricky to see because it's designed to camouflage when they are looking up, looking into like clouds as such. So they are kind of all a little bit different, but nice clean white rump is what we're looking for. Responsive to noise or disturbance. Now, like I said, we don't want to be going around banging on trees, kicking on trees, throwing things, anything like that when we're out there looking at them. But if you are walking around and you are kind of close, they have these beautiful big ears. They can hear quite a bit. If you are around, you may see them kind of look down or around and respond to those changes in their environment. So bright, clear eyes. Again, if they do look down at you, again, it can be a little bit tricky if they are, tucked up, fast asleep. But if they are active in that tree and they are looking around, making sure those eyes are beautiful and clear is what we want to see. A full rounded belly. Now I'm looking at my poster boy here in my slide. This is Henry, actually. So he is a very handsome young man here, and he's got a nice rounded belly. Tells me he's been eating, and again, he's doing everything he needs to do out there. And the last thing on here is alert and active, especially when they're on the ground. So you want to see them walking or running between trees. Koalas shouldn't be on the ground for long periods of time. So when they do come down, we want to make sure that they have that free space to move through, but they're definitely looking for alternatives to get back up in a tree. So now that we've looked at a healthy koala, a sick koala, signs should be pretty self-sufficient, self-explanatory, sorry. So brown matted coat, we want to, some of our koalas, they don't all have to be this grey colour. Some of them do have a brown tinge, but certainly if it is looking quite matted, not fluffy, like they haven't kind of brushed their hair in a while, you'd be kind of thinking, okay, this koala may not be self-grooming, and there may be some concerns there. If it appears skinny, so bony, you're looking at it and thinking, oh, I don't know, I think I can see its spine or its rib cage or especially over the hips as well are quite bony. Definitely that obviously gives us an indicator of body condition. If it is unresponsive to disturbance, so again, we don't want you to go out there and disturb them, but if you are concerned about that koala not being healthy in any of these other points, then yes, you may want to look around a little bit more. And if it is really not responding to the activity around it in any way, then you would be again seeking some further advice. So if the koala is in the same tree for more than 48 hours, so as kind of touched on before, these guys can be in non-food trees, so non-eucalyptus species. That's really common. But what is concerning for us is if they're in the same tree for more than 48 hours. So either a eucalyptus tree, we do especially if they're sitting in the same fork, the same position, we do start to think, okay, has that animal sustained some trauma, or is it really feeling too weak to move? We may obviously again want to investigate that case, but definitely if it's not in a food tree for that amount of time in the same spot, that tells us that koala also hasn't eaten for that time and needs experts to come out and assess the situation. extended periods of time on the ground or sleeping on the ground. So like I said before, our koalas should come down and find another alternative, another tree to kind of go up and be safe. That's where they belong. That's what they're, they're the safest and happiest in. So if a koala comes to the ground, curls up in a ball and is sitting there kind of sleeping, or they may be so weak that they actually will lie down, then that definitely is not a healthy koala and it definitely needs attention. Obviously, it has not got the strength to maintain itself up in that tree and definitely needs to see a vet. Difficulty climbing or moving. Now, we see a lot of trauma cases, unfortunately, and especially this time of year is our koala breeding season. Our koalas tend to kick off a little bit earlier than most of our other native species. Certainly here for us at the Wildlife Hospital, we have a bit of a trend where our koalas seem to come in before most of the others. And they get, obviously, as they are breeding, they're looking for mates. They are coming into contact with more human-induced conditions, such as our roads and our vehicle hits and our backyards with our domestic pets. And we see a lot of trauma all associated with this movement. So certainly if a koala is not moving correctly, that it's holding a leg out or not placing weight, or when it's walking or climbing, certainly you would want to be looking at that. Brown or rusty staining on the rump, possibly wet as well, can certainly show signs of chlamydia. And this young girl here, you can see certainly has that. She has this big staining on her bottom. And like I said, it may also appear wet as well. So this form of chlamydia is our cystitis, and it affects them to the point where they can be leaking and dripping because of that control there. So unfortunately, that is urine. So we want to make sure that we can get those animals again as quickly as possible. Swollen, red, crusty eyes. I didn't want to add a too scary photo in here because some of the cases, unfortunately, can be quite disturbing. But even this girl, she has both forms of chlamydia. You can see she has got crusty eyes here as well, but that is obviously conjunctivitis. So you want to make sure, again, those eyes should be nice and clear and brown. So any form of discharge around the eyes, if they can't open their eyes properly, and definitely if there's any inflammatory or red that you can see present around those eyes, that animal is unwell. Fur loss in our koalas as well. So what I'm talking about here in fur loss, again, is trauma related. So whether the animal is being grabbed by a dog, you may see some fur loss, hit by a car, again, you may see some fur loss from that impact. If you're looking up and you see a koala with a nice shaved square patch, that may actually indicate that animal's actually just been in hospital and recently released. Obviously, to do some of our diagnostic work, we do need to take things like blood or abdominal samples or bone marrow samples from time to time, and that does involve a little bit of hair being clipped. But if it looks like a nice, neat, perfect kind of little square or rectangle, then something you probably would kind of assess the other signs. But if it has kind of mottled hair loss, then again, we would be looking at whether or not that koala has suffered some trauma as well. And any signs of injuries, like we said before, obviously the limbs, but definitely if you see any blood, any cuts or abrasions on them, again, we want to be making sure that there's nothing else kind of going on there, because that obviously is a trauma indicator with these guys. As I said, they are passing through our backyard. So definitely if you have noticed or suspect that a koala has come in contact with a dog, please always call that in as well. Seek advice, because unfortunately with our dog attacks in particular, you will not see a lot of external damage, but the internal damage that dog bite and the pressure of that and the puncture wounds that that can do to our koalas is really, really significant. And they do a lot of internal trauma. So even though the our koalas will probably be full of adrenaline, they'll probably race up a tree or you know, again, try and fight the dog or anything like that off. And take off that adrenaline. Once that calms down, unfortunately, that animal has sustained quite significant injuries internally. Like I said, externally, you won't see a lot potentially on an initial impact. So please, if you ever suspect a koala has come in contact with a dog, it's always a good one just to check. So I've got a couple of pictures here just again to show some of those things that we were talking about. So our very top picture, the koala there, you can see how skinny he is with his backbone, his spine there quite predominant out there, and he is so weak that he can hardly hold his head up, and two, he can't really place his hands properly as well. So that poor boy unfortunately was a body condition of 1, which is really, really sad, because the rest of him though looks quite good, grey coat, stuff like that, but unfortunately he has been in a chronic stage for quite some time and definitely needs to come in. Got the middle guy there again, like we said, lying on the ground. Again, he's quite skinny and a dirty bottom, so definitely needs medical help. And again, the one on the far right just again shows the body condition of that boy as well. Down the bottom, we've got a koala down there. She can't really even open her eyes. So she, even though she's bright and alert and her ears are up, she's looking around. You cannot see those pupils at all. And you can see there is some crusty buildup around there that is indicating that she's probably got conjunctivitis there. The little guy hiding in the bushes here, again, is that grey matted coat. So you can see where it's really kind of separating in there. Again, her body condition is not grey, looks quite underweight there, not rounded for that in the eyes and head. Again, I look at these guys all the time, so it's, you know, I want to make sure that these things are coming through. But I'm not sure if you can see it because I can't really see the bottom of the photo on mine. But there's a little section where there's a few leaves missing, and you can see also has a wet brown bottom. So 6:50 p.m. Oh, thank you. So definitely these are some indicators. All of these koalas need medical attention and should be called in. So what do you do if you do find a sick, injured or orphan koala? Like I said, it is critical to contact your local wildlife rescue or care organisation as soon as possible. Like I said, sometimes time is key. The sooner we can get to these animals, the sooner they can receive some treatment and we can start those processes, the better off that patient will be. Unfortunately though, you know, some of these animals do, when we do find them, are so severe, also chronic cases that they are unfortunately not able to be treated and saved. But we certainly don't want to leave that animal out there in the wild in those conditions, because it's certainly not humane, and we do not want to see any of those animals suffer. So definitely call your local koala rescue group or wildlife hospital. They will give you instructions on what to do, and probably just as important, what not to do. Because again, we want to make sure that you are kept safe and those animals are maintained as best as possible for the help to arrive. So keep an eye on that koala until help arrives. So that way when they do arrive, you can direct them as quickly as possible to that animal. Now, if that patient, please, is on the ground or you know, at a kind of height or something like that where you can be close to it, please don't. We see from time to time people sitting there with koalas on their lap, koalas where they've scooped up and put in their car. Please leave the animal where it is if it is safe to do so, and definitely just wait for help to arrive. Keep other people and dogs away. Again, that animal is sick and injured, and we want to make sure that we minimize stress as much as possible. So definitely keeping those other things away certainly helps to minimize that. don't feed or give water to these patients as well. So especially if they do need to come in and they're coming into hospital as quickly as possible, we certainly don't want any of these kind of extra things on board, but probably more importantly, it's for your own safety. So we don't want you guys handling these guys, please. Never try or catch a koala unless you were trained to do so. They do have lovely sharp claws, front and back legs that are designed to hanging up, you know, onto trees 30 meters up in the air. So if they want to use them, they are, you know, they are very powerful little weapons. And koalas bite. A lot of people don't realize that, but definitely please do not handle them at all. If they are lying or sitting on the ground, you may be able to place a washing basket or something similar over them, but again, only if it is safe to do so, and make sure you are communicating with the wildlife group who you have called to, again, follow their direction on those things. So like I said, all of these things are, for one, most importantly, your own safety, but secondly, the animal safety. We do not want to make any injuries or, you know, worse by any means, and we certainly want to minimize stress. So when help does arrive, it can be a smoother process, and the animal is less worked up by the time it comes in. So thank you very much.
That is absolutely fabulous. Thank you so much, Jamie. There was a question in the chat that came through as you were talking. There's a few that I'll just pose to you. Somebody's asked the question, do you take wildlife calls from all over Queensland? So if they call the 1300 animal number, is it problematic if it's not in an area that you cover?
Yeah, we do take calls. So that 1300 animal number is all over Queensland. So what the call centre will do is we'll look up on the database the best option for your area. So that may be a wildlife group in your area. If we have some capacity in that particular spot as well, whether or not we can respond. But obviously a lot of our calls are from Southeast Queensland, but absolutely statewide.
That is absolutely fabulous. And then there was the simple one in terms of the tags on the ears. So Glenn asks, is the tag on the male koala's left ear, so is it as you look at them or not? And so he was just trying to figure out which ear is the right ear. If you can explain that, that'd be great.
So exactly the same as us. So our left ear, same koala's left ear. So again, looking, not looking directly at the koala, you're looking as if you were the koala. Yes, and females are always right. So should be a pretty good one to keep up your sleeve when you.
I like that as a way to remember it. Females are always right. Sorry to all the males out there. There's another question in from Lily. Are all brown bottoms worth reporting, even if it's just a little bit brown?
So that's a really interesting one. Look, it is worth reporting, like I said, in the sense of seeking advice. But no, not all brown bottoms mean that that animal has cystitis or chlamydia. Some of them, you know, are from sitting into certain types of trees. You know, we've had particular patients of ours that we have put through a whole rehabilitation process and either released or again even had them in care, and we know they're lazy. In particular, they're boys, but we know they're lazy and they will sit there generally in the same spot, and you know, after a few times they've gone to the toilet and you've got the bark staining and stuff like that, they will get some natural staining occur. But definitely if they're wet in any way, it is quite a large area, definitely. But look, if you do see one with a brown bottom, it's always best just to double check.
That is absolutely fabulous. And there's another question here from Andrew. And I'll just read it to you and see if you can actually answer. And with eyes, not just closed, if seeing white pupils or no pupils, should you call that one in?
Yes, so you want to, so again, normally at that stage, if you're looking at the eyes and there's, if it's at that point where you cannot see the pupils at all, you usually see red and inflamed tissue around it. Unfortunately, that has become so inflamed that they're just, you cannot see them. So absolutely, yes. But if they are looking around, look, majority of them, you know, they won't show the white. So because obviously how brown and stuff they are and how small their eyes are, especially up in the tree. But definitely if they are looking down at you and they're that inflamed that you cannot see any of that, of course they need to come in.
That is absolutely fantastic. And Gary asks, if you find an injured koala after 10 p.m, what do you do?
Yes, so absolutely call the rescue group. Like I said, those koala rescue groups. So out there, our own ambulance team does respond to koalas, but we have so many koala rescue groups in Southeast Queensland that generally will beat us to it. So they do fantastic work, and a lot of the time is we will receive the phone call here, and we will look at what areas that they are in. What groups are in that area, and where our ambulances are. So they may send it through, our call centre may send it through to our ambos out there on the roads, but they go, look, we are in the total opposite direction. Please call the closest wildlife koala group, and they will dispatch that job to them.
That is fantastic. And Kirsty asks, when do you tag koalas?
Our koalas are tagged just before they are released. So they will come into care if they need medical attention, obviously, because they're obviously adult koalas, whether they've received some treatment or again, rehabilitation for an injury. Before they are released, they are ear tagged and microchipped. And certainly at the moment, we're also vaccinating them. So vaccinating them for chlamydia, and it's been part of a trial process to try and, again, put a bit of a hold on that, and hopefully there's some more developments. But even our orphan joeys that are hand-raised in care, once they've reached a certain size, they will also get a microchip and ear tag before they are released.
I've just got one final question because I've got my eyes very firmly on the clock. We have a question in from Natasha, who's, and this is a great one. There's been so many offers of help and people with properties who want to be involved, but she's been doing a wildlife rescue induction, and she's just asked, as a beginner, is there any help available for someone like her?
It's a really tricky one. So a beginner in the sense of like just starting out in wildlife in general, or in koala space, because like I said, they are classed as a dangerous species. So you do need to get experience or mentored a little bit with that handling process, definitely. But yeah, definitely reaching out to those groups. Obviously, you know, starting off even with those smaller species and making sure that you've got your animal body language down and handling techniques for those. But definitely, you know, show them you're keen, and obviously work on through to get to those koalas.
Jamie, thank you so much. And for everybody else that's posed some extra questions into the chat, we do promise that we will get back to you with some answers. We're lucky that we can actually pull that information back down, and we will just work with Jamie, Harriet, to answer some of these questions for you and make sure that they're all put back out there. So please forgive me and accept my apologies for the fact that I just have to call it, because I'm very sort of aware of the watch and making sure that we all finish on time. So for all of our speakers from our team, can I just say a huge thank you for everyone who's joined, for all of your questions, your offers for property and help. It's amazing. From our team, we would now like to declare that for those of you that may not have thought about actually reporting koala sightings before, that we considered that maybe you're now all koalafied. So we'd love to see you reporting some sightings across the next months. And importantly, if you go to the wildlifewatcher.com.au website, there are a lot of resources on there, from how to actually download the apps and report within the apps. And we'll make sure that the questions and answers to those questions you've posed tonight are also added into that. Along with that, you're going to hear about the events that the local council areas are offering. So some have in-person events to get people to come out together and hear from some more experienced people to get some help so that you can learn how to do it. And so across this next month, we'd love to shout out to us, tell us that where you're involved. We'd love to hear from you, because what we're trying to do here is help get more people involved. And Harriet's just put a correction in there for the koala survey email if you're a property owner and you're interested. So for the technology issues that have happened, which inevitably, unfortunately, with tech, it sometimes does, on behalf of my team, we do apologise, but we have recorded the session tonight, and we will be making sure that everyone gets the link and that the recording's available through the website. So thanks again for coming. It's been an absolute pleasure hosting you this evening. Thank you.
A lot of neighbors are just going,